Let's get started, please. Great. Thank you all for coming today. Senator Perry and I are pleased you're here. We're ready for our delegation meeting in Putnam County. Senator, any comments?
Nope, looking forward to it. Thank you for having me here.
Great, good. So we'll start today with our invocation and pledge. If you would please stand and join us in that, we'd appreciate it.
You all bow with me. Well, Father, we're just thankful for this day, this time, God, for the blessings you've given us. We pray for the people in the state that are still struggling from the hurricane and in Puerto Rico and other island places, Lord. But we also ask that we not just seek you in times of trouble, Lord, but we also seek you in times of thanksgiving and praise, Lord, and blessings that you constantly pour out on our lives. We pray for this delegation hearing, God, that it would be beneficial and fruitful, and that we can go forward for policies that affect this in a positive way in this area. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you for that. So a few announcements before we get to comments from our officials and local government. The 2018 legislative session this year will convene on January the 9th, 2018. And those that are not on the agenda for today, please fill out a notification card in advance. Delegations are requested to fill out an appearance card prior to speaking. So first up today is our elected officials. We'll start with Chair and Commissioner Larry Harvey.
Good afternoon, Representative Payne, Senator Perry. We appreciate this opportunity to speak before you today. I would like to introduce our new county administrator who started today, Mr. Terry Suggs. Okay, thank you, Terry, for being with us today. And as you well know, our newly appointed Commissioner, Mr. Terry Turner, is also with us today. Commissioner Bill Pickens could not be with us today. His son is being sworn in down in Inverness, and he is very excited that his son has a job, so he sends his regrets, but he wants you to know that he's here in spirit. We also want to take a moment to start this off the right way and say thank you to both you gentlemen, along with our congressmen who were there in the trenches during Hurricane Irma, and all the hard work that your staff did, staying in touch with Putnam County. You were in the EOC building, you were out in the field, you were anywhere that Putnam County needed you, and still not over yet. You were over the weekend doing work. And it's just our way of saying thank you for being there for the citizens of Putnam County, and that's very important.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations to Mr. Turner and Mr. Suggs.
We're looking forward to Mr. Turner and all the things that he's going to be able to bring. We have you're going to get a booklet from us, and your staff will, about our legislative issues that we have. The first one is our economic development necessities. And as you well know, we've got a corridor that we're working on, US 17, East Palatka, San Mateo area. And with your help, we were able to secure some water management funds for sewage down to Paradise Point, a $2 million project. We need to get those septic tanks off the river more now than ever if that conversation is going to happen. And as you well know, the SCRAP and SCOT programs are vitally important for rural Florida, and especially for Putnam County. We have 4 of those projects on the books right now that'll be done in the next year or 2, and those are very important for us. So keep that funding going on that. And we all know that the Shands Bridge will be increased, but naturally that will help our shipping and help our those people who are in the boat building business to get out. The next one is Rodman Reservoir. I know that's 21 billion gallons of water that's back there filtering before that water makes it to the St. Johns River. That's vitally important to our economy here in Putnam County and our environment. One of the big things that we're looking at is our small and rural county disaster debris removal. Y'all have heard that. I mean, you've heard us talking about it. We haven't been reimbursed since Hurricane Matthew yet on the FEMA side. And with our diminishing reserves that we currently have, or hardly have any reserves left, to spend about $1.3 million in Hurricane Matthew, and well over that right now that we've had to do emergency repairs, not counting picking up the debris. Small counties can't afford to continue this process. We have a plan in action. We will have one that'll restore our reserves for a 3-year period, but it's going to take a little while to get there. And we need some help with that. We need that money to be turned around faster. I know Representative Payne, you've been working on it, so have you, Senator Perry, but we want to keep that in the forefront because that's vitally important to Putnam County. We've got to take care of a level of service with our citizens. The SHIP program is important to Putnam County, and we'd ask that you continue to do that. And our local water resources first policy, our public libraries, and I won't continue on too much longer. And let me get to the last item here. And fiscally constrained counties. That funding for fiscally constrained is very important. We don't want to be known as a fiscally constrained county. We like to grow ourselves out of this, but until we do, we still need the funding for those fiscally constrained counties. So I will turn the microphone over to my Commissioner Terry Turner, because he's got to ask for you also. Commissioner Turner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, Representative, good day. I'd also like to make a request when it goes along with the debris pickup, but what it is the debris pickup from the canal systems and the drainage systems and all over that you can't get to with the contractor crews. With all the storm, all these are stopped up even worse than they were before, and we've got to have some help trying to get them unplugged and cleaned out. If we don't, then every little thunderstorm is going to just flood everybody. So if you could keep that in the agenda somewhere, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Sir, would you like to welcome and close this out?
Well, it's just quickly, just it's going to be a pleasure to be here in Putnam County to assist throughout the not only the disaster that we just went through, but for the future of improving Putnam County for all our citizens and then improving the quality of life for all of us. And Representative Bobby Payne, thank you for all your assistance. We've shared some time together already, and Senator Perry, I look forward to doing the same thing with you and your staff. Thank you very much.
Great, gentlemen, thank you. Just a couple of comments. We have been speaking with Fred Dolan of FEMA, and exactly about what you addressed there, Commissioner Harvey, with regard to Matthew money. And I won't make a commitment that it's on the way, but I think we've amped up the necessity of what that money will do back for Putnam County. Additionally, had a chance to ride with our House side Appropriations Chair for Ag and Natural Resources last week, Matt Caldwell, and Matt was in town, and we rode most of the agricultural areas from Crescent City all the way up past Federal Point into Hastings, and looked exactly what you had spoke of, Commissioner Turner, and that is those creeks that hold water and impound water back into our agricultural areas. So that's certainly an area that we need to address, and I think a lot of those main ditches are county maintained ditches, but I realize the budget constraints that make those difficult to deal with. We did through the work of Senator Perry last year, we were able to get money funded for Dog Branch Creek. So hopefully that's the beginning. So thank you for your comments.
Thank you, sir.
So next on the agenda is our tax collector, Mrs. Linda Myers. Hey, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Payne and Senator Perry. Glad to have you here. Glad to have your staff here. We deal with them, and I see maybe a new face. Yep, maybe a new face. Great. We look forward to working with you.
If I could stop you right there just a minute.
No,
Let
no.
me, if I could, we
Of
failed
course.
to introduce our staff. So let
Yes,
me
you
make sure
did.
we introduce our staff. To my immediate right is Leota Wilkinson. She is our Executive Secretary here in Putnam County. Tammy Steele, Executive Secretary in Bradford and Union, and my Legislative Assistant, Sam Wagner. And Senator, if you do the same, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, and we failed to do that because they didn't write it down, and
Right. That's exactly right.
we don't know what to do if they don't write it down for us. So we have Adriana, who is new, been quite a few months now, though, working with us, and also Kayla is our legislative aide too in Gainesville. Also wanted to tell you that we have an office here in this building next door that will be at least one day a week. We will be staffing that office. It's a long way for people who need to deal with either senator to come into Gainesville, where I live. So we want to make it convenient for the citizens of Putnam County. So we haven't got our schedule. We've got the office almost set up now. We'll be going over and releasing a schedule of when that will be on a consistent basis that you can access us as needed. Thank you.
Linda, pardon the interruption, but felt like that was critical. We should have done that early. So, like, as he said, we didn't write it down, so we didn't get it. So
I
thank you.
understand that. When you have great staff, they take care of you, don't they?
They do.
I do want to say that a number of your staff members I've worked side by side with at Farm Share. I think that's where I met Adriana, too, and Kayla as well. You all have done that now twice in the past couple of months here in Putnam County. It is certainly needed, and we thank Leota, too, for putting this all together and getting volunteers, which I know is one of your jobs to do. Briefly, because there's a lot of people who'd like to speak with you today, and we'll have the opportunity in the next few months to work with you and your staff. For tax collector offices, the budget bill for Department of Highway Safety Motor Vehicles is very important to us. So as you move through the session, please reach out to us and ask when you see changes occurring, or ask for comments from your tax collector offices, because again, that's a very important document for us. And second, and Representative Payne, you'll be very familiar with this, we are working again with the redirect bill. And did I see a smile? Well, it was a tough job. Hopefully, we've got our act together this year. The tax collectors themselves had some issues last year. We've rounded and circled our wagons, and I think we have a good bill. Senator Book has it in the Senate, and it is actually Senate Bill 322. And the House has just signed up. It's Representative Mariano. And I don't have a number yet, but the number should be done out by Friday. So those are incredibly important to all of your tax collector offices, and because of that, of course, to the citizens of all your counties. So we're here to help, and I know you hear that from your other tax collectors when you meet with them, and I look forward to being available to you and your staff, and please reach out to us. We certainly want to support you. We know you've got some tough decisions ahead. With that, I'll sit down.
Thank you, Ms. Myers.
Thank you.
Yeah. So next on our list is Tim Parker, property appraiser.
Representative Payne, Senator Perry, thank you for hearing just a few comments that I have to make. I was addressing one of my constituents today, and I told him that I would bring his concerns to you. He lives on Dunn's Creek, and he's concerned about the debris level in our waterways. So I just wanted to pass that information along as I promised. Thank you for your work on Amendment 4, Senate Bill 90, in trying to keep that money here in Putnam, trying to keep the solar farms taxable in Putnam County. Very, very important to us. So we're glad that seemingly the language was written in there that we can rely on that revenue. So that was very, very important to Putnam County. Thank you for your work on Amendment 1, or at least looking at that particular amendment. That has to deal with the additional homestead exemption on the value between $100,000 and $125,000. As was mentioned earlier, Putnam County is a fiscally constrained county, and Mayor Hill may address the fiscally constrained status of the cities. Well, there is no such impact, or there is no such category as a fiscally constrained city. So any impact from Amendment 1 would directly affect our municipalities in Putnam County as well. So keep that in mind. Given you some tax roll statistics there for Putnam County, and you can see those. If you have any questions, certainly you can contact our office.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Supervisor of Elections, Charles Overturf.
Good afternoon, Senator and Representative. As my colleagues have done, I will be brief. There are two issues that the State Association is asking us to speak with you all about as you come to the different meetings. The first one is the same one that we dealt with last year. It's called the ERIC program. It's electronic registration information, and half of the state passed it without any question, and unfortunately the other half didn't even let it out of committee. So we're hoping that you will, both sides will be able to cooperate with this. It's not a huge amount of money. I think Florida's share would be $30,000 to join between 25 and 30 other states in the United States, as far as registrations are concerned. It will give us an opportunity to compare names so that we can see if there's somebody that's registered in two different states, that we can address that issue. One of the other things that's really important for out of state is when people die, we don't get notified, and it would be a way of us, if we're cooperating with those other states, it'll be a way for us to take care of that and to do the best we can to update our rules to address that. It's House Bill 8587 by Representative Spiano and Senate Bill 27678 by Senator Hudson. So please consider that this year, and hopefully we can, let Florida join the 25 or 26 other states that are doing that. The other issue that we have is, and we also approached you last year about, and that is the public records exemption for voter information. For several years, the State Association has been recommending to the legislature to please give us an exemption for all the voters, especially in light of all the national news with the hacking and all this other stuff that's going on. We just think it's something that we have recommended for years, and unfortunately the legislature hasn't done that. If you don't do all of the voters, then at least consider the 16 and 17-year-olds, because their information, we go to the high schools every year and try to get them to pre-register so that they can vote when they're 18 and they're already ready to go. But their information is also out, and it's public records. So please, if you won't do all of our voters, at least consider, the younger ones, because I just can't see any reason why that information needs to be out. So I think last year it was Representative Goodson and also Senator Lee presented those bills, and we believe they will. Again, they haven't been assigned yet, but we believe they will. So please consider that, especially with the 16 and 17-year-olds, if not for all of us, in light of everything that goes on nationally. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Sheriff Gator Deloach. Good afternoon, Sheriff. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank
Good.
you. At the risk of sounding repetitive, I do want to extend my sincere thanks to both you and Senator Perry for coming here today and hearing our concerns. Just a couple of key issues that the Florida Sheriff's Association supports that I want to bring to your attention. As you're aware, we made some, as a state as a whole, we made some significant strides towards addressing some of our prolific juvenile offenders last year during the session. And in furtherance of that, the Florida Sheriff's Association actually supports an initiative to strengthen secure detention for prolific juvenile offenders. We made some headway with the bill, we just have nowhere to put them now. So what we support is an increase in bed space in secure housing and funding for solid evidence-based residential programming. Also, as a major initiative, the Florida Sheriff's Association supports legislation to make texting while driving a primary offense. As you're aware, texting while driving is listed as a secondary offense now, which in layman's terms basically means that in order for us to enforce that statute, we have to witness a primary violation before actually enforcing the texting while driving law. Just some additional food for thought. In the order of prevention and youth services, the Florida Sheriff's Association and all the sheriffs in Florida will continue to oppose a statewide mandate of issuing civil citations to all juveniles who commit misdemeanor crimes. I can tell you here locally and pretty much throughout the state that the Sheriff's Association, all Florida sheriffs and municipal police chiefs do a great job of redirecting juvenile offenders when appropriate into diversionary programs. We just still oppose mandatory civil citations for all others. And the only other thing is to expose the expansion of any gambling, including casino resorts or internet poker. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
On the juvenile detention center, so I know we have Lancaster out in Gilchrist County. Where are the other closest juvenile detention centers?
We actually transport all of our juveniles over to Alachua to be housed over there. Years ago, we actually had a facility over in St. John's that was much more convenient for the Northeast Florida area. It unfortunately closed, I guess, about 10 years ago due to lack of funding. That facility was actually transferred over to St. John's County, and they now maintain it.
Does the Sheriff's Association do anything with how they're run, the criteria, the model of how those would be run? Do they have input on those? Or?
I'm sure we would have a position on it. The Florida Sheriff's Association is instrumental in the writing of the Florida Model Jail Standards, and certainly a number of those would certainly apply to juvenile facilities as well.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sir. Next, good friend and clerk of court, Tim Smith.
Representative Payne, Senator Perry, thank you for being here today. I also want to thank you, Representative Payne, and your staff, particularly Leota, for the farm share events. It's just incredible when one of those happens and that semi-truck shows up and you're not real sure what's going to happen, and then by the end of the day, it's just magic. The folks that truly are in need have the benefit of sharing some good news with them. And once again, it continues to show what a great county Putnam County is, and I want to thank both of you for your efforts in moving that forward.
Good, thank you.
I won't take up much of your time, just to let you know that once again, we will be speaking to both of you as an association as it relates to the funding deficits that the clerks of the court around the state have been experiencing for the last 6 years, trying to work with both the House and the Senate to find the right formula that will allow us to carry out our constitutional duties. So that really is our big issue, as it has been for the last few years, and any support that you can give in that effort, we certainly would appreciate it. Thank you.
Good, thank you, sir. School Superintendent Rick Surensee.
Representative Payne, Senator Perry, welcome to Putnam County. Glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Giving you a list of concerns regarding the school district, and I just want to highlight about 4 of those concerns, if you will, ones that you've heard a number of times over the last couple of years. Just have a concern about maintaining the required local effort millage, if you'd consider that. In Putnam County, if we left the millage the same as it was the previous year, we could raise over $2 million revenue for our school district. So that is, for our size district, that will be a big help. The other one is restore local capital outlay millage back to 2 mills from the 1.5 mil. And again, for Putnam County, that would raise an additional $1.85 million of capital funds that would be desperately needed for maintaining our facilities and our transportation needs and technology. Third thing is consider providing increase to our safe schools funding. Currently, we receive $297,000 towards safe schools, which we use for security through hiring school resource officers. And we have to spend an additional $150,000 just to maintain that. So, you know, we're using general fund just to maintain our level of security. And fourth thing is our transportation. Being a spread out county, we have unique transportation needs in our county. Would ask that you increase the student transportation allocation from 40% to 60% of the established cost. Currently, we receive $2.5 million and we spend $4.9 million for transportation. So that's a much needed revenue area that we would desperately need to maintain our transportation. So thank you again, and appreciate any consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Did you have a question? Health Department, oh, hey, Mary, I'm sorry. You're way ahead of me, thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for affording me the time to speak a little bit about the Department of Health's priorities. But first, I really want to take a moment to thank the individuals who came together these last 2 weeks through Hurricane Irma. It's been an incredible witness on how the strength of Putnam County and the individuals that come together and pull together to save lives. So I just needed to say that up front, and I thank you for your efforts and support for that as well. I want to thank you for the efforts for providing 15 epidemiologists for the Department of Health this year. It has been an incredible boon. We'll have one individual that'll help us for our rural counties, and that is terribly important as we have the volume day-to-day of reportable diseases and outbreaks and emerging diseases, and that will only increase after these 2 hurricanes. So, you know, it's just one of those things that happens, so we're really grateful for your help for those. Thank you so much. We do have a request as well for improving the area-wide network bandwidth. We have 232 DOH sites out of our 400 locations that have insufficient network bandwidth. And this increases client wait times, and it decreases our clinic efficiencies. And we want to make sure that we could do that if that's possible, if you would ask your support to help secure some funding to upgrade the bandwidth in our area. And I know that's not just us, it's been mentioned to other agencies as well. And last, I really want to thank you so much for your help and support of our WIC infant, our women, infant, and children funding. We had an increase for our federal funding through the federal government, and we thank you for that. Locally, the Department of Health serves over about 3,000 clients each year. About 887 are infants and 1,500 children. The rest are postpartum and pregnant and breastfeeding women.
Can you give me those numbers again?
Yes,
I want
sir.
to hear that. 1887.
So 2,820 clients, 687 infants, over 1,500 children, and then we do pregnant, postpartum, and breastfeeding women.
Thank you.
I really want to highlight one of our partnerships with the Putnam Community Medical Center. We're working on their baby-friendly steps for becoming a baby-friendly hospital, and they just received word that they're on their 4th step. It's a partnership that we've been doing over the last 3 years, and they are actually, we've sent most of their nurses to become certified lactation counselors. This is really important because breastfeeding is one of the first things that we can do to reduce the risk of infections, asthma, obesity, and it's the first thing that we can do with children that helps us with the rest of that child's life and that adult's life. So we want to continue that as well. Mothers that breastfeed also have reduced risk of breast cancer and ovarian cancer and postpartum depression as opposed to women that don't breastfeed. So we want to ask your continued support of our WIC program, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and I do want to invite you all to our 5K that we're having on Saturday. If you want to come, 7:30 in the morning. It's our World Heart Health Day in combination with, you'll hear a little bit more with the Bartram Frolics.
Where does it start?
It starts right at the riverfront at 8 o'clock. All right, thank you.
Great. From our municipalities, first, the City of Palatka, Mayor Terrell Hill. I'm sorry.
I'm hard of hearing.
Okay,
good
go ahead.
morning.
Mayor, if you want, go ahead. Go ahead. You're it. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you, sir, for coming to beautiful Putnam County. We're glad to see you here. My name is Kalia Baleen, and I am president of the Garden Club of Palatka. We're part of the Florida Federation of Garden Clubs. And throughout the state, we participated in collecting the signatures for the Water and Conservation Amendment and applauded the 70% of Floridians who want to see the appropriate tax dollars used as stated. We're overpopulated and growing quicker than our systems can provide the infrastructure to tolerate us. We are a very special piece of earth. Our subtropical peninsula with beautiful sandy beaches, multiple rivers flowing from the Atlantic Ocean to the South Florida, thousands of lakes, even one that can be seen from outer space, a freshwater aquifer that holds our major source of drinking water, flora and fauna, some disappearing too rapidly, and plants that are beautiful to behold. All share this small haven. These are natural wonders that make us so very special. But we have other problems as well. Along with terrific summer thunderstorms with killer lightning and sometimes flooding rain, our hurricanes destroy the coastlines, flood interiors, create tornadoes to down trees and blow down homes, disease-carrying mosquitoes, venomous snakes, alligators, and millions of bugs, panthers and black bears try to share our spaces, even when we destroy them and their habitats. Why do we stay here anyway? Water everywhere and less of it to drink, as we pollute the very streams we play in. The issues abound and we need to address them by positive and humane means. We have an opportunity, a responsibility to our voters, and a human need to preserve and protect the precious land that supports us. Please use the money in our coffers to buy the many lands and waterways available to protect and to save the nature we all love, so it can sustain and nurture us for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you check with her? Okay. I'm sorry we got a little out of order there. So, Mayor Hill, if you would, please.
Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank both of you for your help over the past year, but also particularly with the Hurricane Irma situations. Senator Perry, I know that you were not here physically in some of those occasions, but through Representative Payne, I've had an opportunity to hear about the things that you were doing and making calls, getting resources to this community. We definitely want to thank you for that. I had an opportunity to go out with Representative Payne and actually go door to door in a senior community where we actually serve food from the Salvation Army and work closely to get power restored back to one of the local communities. And I definitely appreciate you for taking time out of your schedule to work with the people of Palatka, particularly those who are underserved. And it was indeed a pleasure to see those faces as we were able to bring in those resources. And so I definitely thank both of you gentlemen for the work that you've done in this community and the efforts that you've made over the last year to really help us to gain some additional appropriations. And so with the city of Palatka, it's kind of like preaching to the choir. It's a team approach here with us, but you guys are fully aware of where we are and what our priorities are. But I'd like to reiterate those for most. Our main priority is dealing with the wastewater treatment plant, particularly dealing with our biosolids treatment and dewatering system at that plant. As you both know, the city of Palatka is about 250 citizens above the residential threshold as it relates to USDA rural facilities grants, which puts us in a very precarious situation. But we have a significant need. We've had some projects that we've placed on the way thus far. We've got a $1.2 million cost share agreement with the St. Johns River Water Management District. They've been a gracious partner with us over the last few years and continually as it relates to helping us deal with some of the issues that we have as it relates to infrastructure. We're requesting a $4.5 million appropriation as it relates to that project, of which $3.2 million we would seek through appropriations for the $4.5 million project. That would allow us to be able to have several different beneficial reuse projects in place. It would allow us to be able to eliminate the need to take our biosolids to the landfill. We've created some partnerships with Tater Farming and some other entities to do that. But at the height of those projects, it would allow us to be able to have about 900,000 gallons per day of potable water back saved within the system. So it's a significant conservation issue for us as a whole. That treatment plant is about 10 years past its shelf life, and it becomes a very critical issue. Getting that funding in place eliminates the need for any risk of discharge and things of that nature during catastrophic events. So that disaster appropriation is very critical for us. Secondly, our aging water lines. We've got about 65 linear miles of water lines that have to be replaced that go back as far as 1887. With those aging water lines, we look at an estimate based upon the last study that we had in place of about $18 million to replace those lines. We've appropriated about 30% of our CRA dollars over the next 20 years to deal with about $2.1 million worth of replacements of lines in our districts, in our CRA districts. Those projects are about to start now. Jonathan Griffith is our Public Works Director, along with Mandy Tucker, significantly in getting those projects in place. So we've actually done what we can do with the limited resources that we have. Both of you've seen the cross sections of those lines and what they look like being over 130 years old. But it leads us into our third priority, which is the quality housing development and stabilization. Within the city of Palatka, our housing stock, about 1/3 of our housing stock is older than 1960. We've got a very anemic tax base, to say the least. 10% of our residents live in public housing, and there's a significant need to deal with infill, to be able to provide newer housing and adequate housing for many of the people within our community. There's several dilapidated structures. We've created our own methods of trying to deal with those issues, but we definitely need some help as it relates to appropriations of SHIP dollars, both on the county level and even looking at where we can do that from a maximization standpoint within the community as a city, as a municipality. That support basically creates an opportunity for us to put more housing strategies into place. And the last thing that we have is to deal with economic development, and our fourth priority is the business incubator and also business development. There's an opportunity for us within the city of Palatka to really get some additional technical assistance as it relates to development of economic strategies that deal specifically with infrastructure for business. We've worked with the county in an effort to do some rezoning and to provide some opportunities for infrastructure for our business park. But there are some other areas of the city which become quality areas for us to be able to bring in businesses and other opportunities for jobs within this community. That technical assistance funding as well as the infrastructure funding become critical for us to be able to change the dynamics of the community as a whole. You guys have anything you want to say? And so, in a nutshell, there are very significant needs within the city of Palatka. I think you both are fully aware. You've been locked in the car with Vice Mayor Brown as she takes you on the tour around the community. But the city of Palatka as a whole, we think that these are the major priorities that need to be addressed. So as the county goes, so as the city of Palatka goes, so does the county. We think as a county seat, if we're able to address a lot of these issues, then it puts our community in a position where we prosper both financially as well as being able to meet the needs of the community. So we've used, I think, some very innovative ways with the amount of resources that we have available to be able to do things on our own, but it does take additional assistance to be able to get to those points.
Thank you, Mayor. I know everyone with you. I believe Senator Perry probably does, but if you want to introduce them real quick, we'd appreciate it.
Okay. Of course, Vice Mayor Brown, Mary Lawson Brown. We've got our city clerk, Betsy Jiggers, our public works director, Jonathan Griffith, and our interim city manager, finance director, who's taking on a new role, Mr. Matt Reynolds.
Good. Great. Thank you for those comments. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. So Ken Larson from the town of Interlaken, is he here? Larry, don't see him. Okay. City of Pomona Park, John Berquist. I didn't see John. Crescent City, Brett Peterson. Is Brett here? Don't see him. In Palatka, I don't see Gordon Sands either. So that brings us to public presentation testimony. We'll try to hold these to 3 minutes out of respect for others. We're going 2 hours today, so we're 42 minutes into our meeting. So first, Candace King from Acorn Clinic. Is Candace here? Our representative from Acorn? Okay, not here. Okay, moving right along. Mark Landreth from, and our Rivers Buford from American Heart Association. Not here. And Mrs. Andrea Conover, I know she's here from North Florida Trust.
Hi, Senator Perry and Representative Payne. I'm Andrea Conover, and I'm conservation advocate for the North Florida Land Trust, and I'm happily living here in Putnam County. North Florida Land Trust is a 19-year-old private nonprofit organization. Our mission is to preserve important natural, historic, and working agricultural lands in Northeast Florida. We work with landowners, agencies, and foundations for land donations, purchases, and conservation easements. Nature provides many ecosystem services at no cost to us humans. It removes toxins from the air and water, provides food and fiber, protects us from floods, regulates water supply, and more. And as we know, outdoor recreation is a critical component for the quality of life and good health for Florida's residents and visitors, as well as an important economic driver in rural communities such as ours. As the population of Florida increases, the scenic beauty of our state and the recreational opportunities will be stressed. In the past, the Florida Forever, Florida Communities Trust, and Rural and Family Lands Protection Programs have preserved important properties in Putnam County, such as the Clay Ranch. We were disappointed that the legislature did not fund Florida Forever and the Florida Communities Trust at all during the recent session and allocated only $10 million for the Rural and Family Lands Protection Program. There are several properties in Putnam County that are pending for the Rural and Family Lands Program, such as Weelacca Ranch, the Rodman Plantation, and Wetland Preserve. And additional parcels for the Etenaya Cross Florida Greenway are pending on the Florida Forever list. Some elected leaders argue that Florida already owns too much land, but the ailing state of our waters and the vulnerability of our wildlife populations indicate that we do not yet own enough. The time to buy land is now. If we fail to fund land conservation programs, over the next 50 years, another 5 million acres of natural and working landscapes will be lost to development. These lands that need to be protected will become more expensive the longer we wait. In the upcoming session, we request that you support legislation to dedicate a significant portion of the Land Acquisition Trust Fund each year for the 3 land acquisition programs that I mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. So next from Stewart Markman Act Behavioral Health Care is Ivan Kasimi. Hey, Ivan.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
I'm Ivan Kosimi. I'm the CEO of Stewart Marchman Act Behavioral Health, otherwise known as SMA. Makes it a little easier to roll off the tongue. So this afternoon, I really wanted to start off by saying thank you. Thank you for your service to my fellow Floridians, especially all the folks here in Putnam County. And I want to thank you for the efforts for supporting the efforts of Stewart Marchman Act and our mission to serve the mental health and substance abuse arena. I also want to thank you for your continued support of the Putnam St. John's FACT team. As you will recall, the FACT team stands for the Florida Assertive Community Treatment Program, and it serves 100 of the most severely mentally ill in our community. And so the services there are essentially set up to limit folks from going into CSUs, into emergency hospital rooms, in jails, or worse yet, end up homeless. FACT team consists of therapists, psychiatrists, peer support folks, and folks tirelessly working to keep our mentally ill out of these deep end services. So as you know, the FACT team was funded with 1 year non-recurring money, meaning I'm here today to ask you to support it again for 17-18. And the fact is, really, when you look at it, it's not a non-recurring issue. And if somehow, I would really love to see this as a recurring issue in our budget. These are proven models that are all across the state of Florida. Putnam and St. John's, it's no different. Very effective since we've been doing it for the last 2 years. I also want to kind of just, make sure you guys are aware that there's a disturbing trend in the funding for behavioral health. A lot of folks look at this system and say it's broken. It's really funded with all these non-recurring issues that every year we're fighting to keep in the budget, and kind of we're spinning our wheels. So, I'd ask for your support to keep things in our budget, get them recurring if at all possible. And, as SMA is being the largest, most comprehensive provider in behavioral health for Putnam County, we look forward to working with you and keeping these services in place. Thanks. Have a good afternoon.
Just a quick question for you.
Sure.
and we can discuss it later, one of the things we had, and I was just thinking about the name Marchman Act, we started off a couple of years ago funding some safe houses for some of the trafficked youth that was coming, but it wasn't a secure facility because we haven't violated any civil rights. And the one that opened in Miami with a lot of fanfare, every young lady that went there ended up just leaving pretty quickly. You know, so it's hard to imagine taking a 15-year-old girl taking off the streets and letting her wander, but of course legally we have to.
Right.
But those are kind of things from a Marchman Act or a Baker Act or anything else that if you or individually want to talk about it, you have an association that we can look at later. Sometimes it's the only chance we get this young lady or a young man off the street, and then how do we make sure they don't go back and maybe we never see them again. So those are just some things, not necessarily take up time today, but I'd love to get your opinion on some of those things of how we can increase our opportunity for success with those young people.
Absolutely. When we do those lockdown kind of scenarios with folks, it costs money. So that's one of the troubling parts of it. But absolutely, love to have some further conversation with you.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, from Lutheran Services of Florida Health Systems, Dr. Christine Caulfield.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to present to both of you. I'm Dr. Christine Caulfield. I'm the CEO of LSF Health Systems. We're the second largest managing entity in the state. We cover 23 counties. We have 48 incredible organizations. In fact, SMA is one of them in our network of care. And we treat about 150,000 individuals a year. And these individuals are indigent and uninsured. So basically, we're the safety net for folks suffering from mental health and substance abuse issues. I know you've been reading the headlines about our opioid epidemic. It's absolutely devastated our system of care. In 2016, we had an average of 14 Floridians die daily from opioid overdoses, and during the first 6 months of 2017, there's been a 13.9% increase in deaths. So all of our providers are really struggling to address this absolutely devastating epidemic. Many of you hold your own opioid town hall meetings, and we applaud you for that. And we are here to help if you'd like to hold further meetings because we feel it's very important for your expertise and your representation to show your support in helping all of us address this very serious issue. As Ivan has shared, we are very overstressed right now. The behavioral health care system in Florida, we are 50th now in the nation for funding for behavioral health care services. And we have 4 main reasons that we're really asking your help in this coming session. The first we talked a little bit about is the opioid crisis and helping us address this very serious epidemic. The second is the extreme underfunded system of care. The third is we've had an expiration of $20 million this past fiscal year in a federal block grant. And this block grant funded things like detox beds, residential beds for our providers. And the managing entities have been working very tirelessly trying to address this deficit. We've been redirecting funds. Unfortunately, when we redirect to the safety net programs that we desperately need, we're pulling from other programs that now have been cut. So we're asking if you'd please consider restoring that $20 million this next legislative session so that we can get at least back on track of where we were last fiscal year. It's really important. Also, we ask for your support of $3.2 million in funding for care coordination. This is a program that we work very closely with our providers. We're working with a high utilizing population, ensuring that they don't fall through the cracks and they don't come back into the system time and again. So it really helps reduce recidivism, and it's well worth the return on investment. And finally, we're working on revenue maximization. And last year we presented a proposal to the legislators. And this is utilizing general revenue to draw down federal dollars to increase Medicaid services. This year it's called a Designated State Health Program, and ACA and DCF are working with the managing entities and with providers. And we have submitted a plan, and we really ask for your cooperation to ensure that this funding, this plan that gets approved, that the monies stay within the Department of Children and Families and with the managing entities, so that the dollars are not taken from the safety net population, and our providers can continue to serve those underserved individuals. I look forward to discussing this and any other issues. I want to be a resource for you, and I thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Dr. Caulfield.
Thank you.
Next with Elder Options, Christine Griffiths.
Good afternoon, and thank you. I sent the materials earlier, and I'll also make sure to drop a copy of them off. But I'm Kristen Griffiths, and I am the director at Elder Options. We're the Aging and Disability Resource Center. We serve 16 counties here in North Central Florida. One of them's Putnam. And I've been here a couple years now, and I come each year kind of proposing what we are. We have two priorities this year, but I want to thank you guys because last year we did fund some home and community-based services for seniors. So there was some money that was passed, and we appreciate that. But in the material, you'll see that the two priorities that we have right now, one of them is, as the Aging and Disability Resource Center, one of the responsibilities that the Department of Elder Affairs and ACA have of the Aging and Disability Resource Center is to do all the intake and screening for individuals who are interested in the statewide Medicaid managed long-term care program. And then we put them on the wait list. We manage the wait list and do reassessments. We also then, when ACA gives out the slots every month of availability, we help those seniors get through the financial DCF eligibility process and then the functional eligibility process with CARES. And that's very time consuming. And as the Medicaid program has grown, which we appreciate that there's been more slots and availability for seniors to get services, it also does come with that there is a workload around that because you have attrition through the program and then you have new referrals and reassessments. So we did a workload analysis study. We turned it into the Department of Elder Affairs and ACA. And based on that, this is the dollars that we're asking. It's about $876,000 of GR, but that would pull down federal match to help with the workload that we could adequately keep up with the need. So that's one of our requests. And then the second one, more importantly, really is the request again for the programs that were, that again, we thank you for increasing last year, but those are our home and community-based service programs. We're asking for about $12.4 million over a few of the programs, the main one being the Community Care for the Elderly program. And that would take about 1,788 people off the wait list. And of course, that would be focusing on the fives, which are the ones that score the highest. They're very frail elders. They're home. And these programs are critical to keep them at home and away from premature nursing home placement. If we don't provide these programs and we don't provide that help to caregivers and the elders at home, then what's going to happen is they'll usually end up on Medicaid, and at that point they're going to end up on we're going to pay for them through the Medicaid program in the nursing home. If you, the materials that we do give you, you'll see at the bottom that it shows the cost differential of us paying for individuals in a Medicaid nursing home bed versus at the home. So these really are programs that not only help for the quality of life for the seniors that what we have here in our state, but also really are good for the taxpayers and return on investment. So those are the two priorities that I'm bringing to you guys today. And again, I'm available for any questions, and I'll drop this material off.
Thank you. Questions? Good, thank you. So we'll move on to appearances, public appearances, and they're in no particular order, just as they happen to get shuffled into the deck here. So first, from the ARC of Putnam County, Carrie Bates. Carrie.
Hi. Thank you both. I want to speak just briefly about the governor's recent mandate on assisted living facilities for permanently installed generators and sort of the impact that we're looking at as I think this will be an ongoing conversation in the upcoming months. I thank you both. You've both been supporters of the ARC, and we appreciate that very much. As you know, we serve around 130 adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Of those, we provide housing to 70 adults, and of those 70 adults, 40 live in licensed assisted living facilities. So we're falling under the governor's mandate for 2 8-bedroom group homes, a 12 apartment unit complex, and then a 12-bedroom group home. And we, as soon as the governor's mandate came out, we put out a request for a bid to get the permanently installed generators, and we're looking at $145,000 to meet the mandate. But, you know, beyond that, the issue we really have is the 60-day requirement. We feel it's just nearly impossible to get the quotes we need to get, that we're required by our own self-imposed requirements to get, and have those installed within 60 days. We don't argue it's a great idea in theory. We just would like a little flexibility as far as timing, the fuel supply also, because we have the ability to use natural gas here, but that's currently not allowed in the governor's mandate. And we think we can come up with a good creative solution, whether it be we have a day program that we could install generators in that could house everyone safely, but to have to put individually installed generators on every home for an organization our size is going to be a huge concern. So I just would appreciate y'all's consideration of that as y'all have discussions on that topic.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we understand there's a cost involved, but yeah, I can't imagine everybody in the state. I mean, that's almost an impossible request, isn't it?
Yes. We were told if we ordered, so the mandate, we got word of the mandate last Saturday. We had an electrician out Monday at 7:30, and he said if we ordered immediately, best case scenario, the generators would be in about 6 weeks. And that then obviously to meet the 60-day is almost impossible. We're looking at, for 2 of these ALFs, they are HUD facilities, so we're appealing to HUD to, if they will allow us to use our reserves, it would help. Currently, it's not an allowable expense, but just that process of asking HUD for the money, we don't have time for that in the mandate, so.
Yeah, and I don't know what legislative, we'll be back in Tallahassee in a couple of weeks, but, you know, you're not the first person to bring up the possible task that's been put before, so we'll be working on that quickly.
All right, thank you both.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Sam Carr, Bartram Trails Conferencing Committee. I don't think anybody knows him. They can.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, for hosting us, Representative Bobby and Senator Perry. I'm here on behalf of a couple of different groups. First of all, I serve as the governor's appointment to the Florida Greenways and Trails Council, and it's very important. And Putnam County is a key county for the national trails system, or for the state's trail systems that we have here. And one of our problems that we're having is we have such a large number of priority trails coming through Putnam County is maintenance costs for those trails, and so the Florida Water and Land Conservation Amendment 1 was passed by 70%, as mentioned earlier, and if the state can steal that money from us for a couple of years, surely they can give us some of it back for our counties to use that for maintenance on our trails. That's the first thing. Second thing is the National Bartram Trail, of which I'm vice president of, is starting an initiative, and actually this is for Congressman Yoho, but we're starting an initiative to create a William Bartram National Trail Corridor through Florida, which will go from Jacksonville all the way down to DeLand, out to Gainesville, Swanee River, and so forth. And we're going to need some endorsements from you folks on that. So I've got some literature for that and all that, and that'll be something that'll be going over the next 2 or 3 years that we'll be going over. But we're going to need Congressman Yoho's endorsement to this. It takes an act of Congress to get this thing done, so we're going to need his help with that. And there's stuff going on this weekend.
Yes, as the people of Putnam County want to change the perspective of other people in the surrounding counties about our community and all, we have worked hard over the last 5 years to develop the Bartram Trail, which is now a national recreation trail on the St. Johns River. And this weekend, we will be hosting our first festival, which is a Bartram Frolic. We've had several Bartram Frolics before. This is an occurrence that happened in his book called The Travels that actually happened in September of 1774. So our history goes back a long way in this area with William Bartram and John Bartram. We will have a frolic this weekend. It's a living history festival. So we will have different generations and periods that will be there acting out as they would back in those days. We have Jim Sawgrass with the Seminole Indians. We have Mike Adams as Billy Bartram. We have Fort Mosey soldiers that will be there. There'll also be a Civil War reenactment at the Bronson Mulholland House. There's just a lot going on. There's a great thing called the Passport to the Past, which is a program for our youth, be accompanied by parents, go around to 10 booths and learn a little bit about our history. Not only of history, but the river and what it has done to us. It's just an opportunity to bring people into our community, to let them know that we have biking trails, hiking trails, beautiful water trails, and an opportunity to show them the ecotourism that we're trying to develop here. We have for y'all both, I'll pass it over to your aides over here, invitations to come to it and experience what we think is going to be an exciting time for our citizens in Putnam County, especially after Irma. There can't be, the timing couldn't have been better for us to bring the people back out into the public and have a good time down on the riverfront.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Next on our list is Democratic Women's Club from the Lake area, Fran Rosano? That's it? Rosano, okay, excuse me.
Thank you for being here today and giving me the opportunity to speak to you.
Yes,
the Democratic women would like for the legislators to please stop requesting federal Medicaid funding cuts. Governor Scott returned over $400 million in tax cuts, and of those $400 million, none of those were substantive or could make a difference in anyone's life like the funding of Medicaid. House Memorial 7033 that our state members sent to D.C. was outrageous. 50% of Florida's children are covered by Medicaid, and this funding is also crucial for the care of our large and elderly population and people with disabilities. Medicaid is of particular importance in the aftermath of disasters such as our recent hurricanes. And it should be noted that there are only 3 other states in the United States that spend less money per capita on Medicaid enrollees than Florida, and for children, there's only 1 state that spends less. Shame on us. In addition, we need better oversight of these Medicaid managed care plans, and we truly need a Florida Medicaid system that makes care of our vulnerable population's top priority, and a Medicaid payment system that fairly compensates our medical providers in a fair, speedy, and a dependable manner. This is one of the parts of the system that many claim is broken, and we need to fix that. Adequately fund and support Florida's public health system. The Florida Department of Health needs to be rebuilt and treated with respect. We've had recent outbreaks of Zika. We have high rates of HIV. In our county, we have high rates of hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. And we also need clean water and safe sewer management. We need you to support innovative initiatives that make health care coverage more accessible, affordable, and fair for all Floridians, such as instituting telemedicine, preventing changes in insurance medication formularies during the insurance plan year, and limiting health insurance and pharmaceutical company profits, and regulating quality components into our Florida's healthcare system. I'll end this by asking, as our U.S. senators and congresspersons, at your request, prepare to pass the Graham-Cassidy Senate bill that will potentially cut our state Medicaid funding and repeal the Affordable Care Act, of which 1.6 million residents of Florida are involved with. Do you have a plan for what to do with all these Floridians that will either be cut from the Medicaid rolls or have their already meager services reduced? And I would venture to say that is a no. So we Democrat women are tracking what's happening in Tallahassee, and we're keeping our community aware of what's happening, and we are going to be promoting competent political candidates and holding our legislators accountable for their actions. Thank you for your time and your attention, and I look forward to meeting with you individually in the future to discuss these issues.
Thank you, Mr. Sano.
And just to note, you asked if we had a plan and said no. On a federal level, obviously, we don't deal with that. There is, if you want to check, and we can get you the information. We did pass in the House a couple of years ago called Florida's Choice, which was what it was our plan. And I'd love for you to take a look at that and then give us some feedback on what you think about that. So,
Yes, I am aware of that. I have grandchildren that are involved with that program.
well, if you can, we'll get together later and we can talk about it, and you can give your opinion on
I
that.
look forward to that.
Good,
Thank you.
Next, Nels Parson. Afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good seeing you again, Representative
Good to see
Payne.
you,
And
sir.
good to finally meet you, Senator Perry. Nels Parson. I live out in the Flora Home community. I'm here as a private citizen. I'll first want to invite both of you. I sit on the Flora Home Parks and Recreation Association, and we're having our fall festival on Saturday, October 21st. So if it so happens that your schedules allow, we did make sure there's not a home Gator game that day. So hopefully you can try to fit it in and maybe squeeze out into our little community. It's our first, what we hope to be annual fall festivals. And so we'd like to have you come out there and see what we're doing. But the reason I'm here today is to talk about another subject. And I want to preface my remarks by saying I am not a county employee. I don't work for the Sheriff's Department or the school district, but I'm here to speak in their behalf for the exorbitant cost of health insurance that these agencies and their employees have to pay. And I've got a proposal I'd like to put forth to you. If you just give me a moment or two to go through it. But I first of all want to kind of create a scenario. So as you're aware of, if you work for a Florida state agency, an actual determined state agency, they get health insurance for about, I think, $50 a month for an individual and $180 a month for family coverage with a $500 annual deductible. My last research has proven that, right? And then there's you folks that get even a more favorable amount. I'm not going to go into any detail, but I believe there's 22,700 highest paid state workers, your legislators and your aides. And so I'm going to be asking that you maybe make a personal sacrifice, and I'll go into detail about that. But I want to give the scenario of what we're having here in this county. And I want to start because I've been a school volunteer for many years and seen what some of the teachers and the staff, when they're in tears and talking about. So I want to tell you a little bit about what a school teacher, if they start in Putnam County, and they get a lot of teachers come here brand new, because if you do teach in Putnam County, because of our, I think your designation is, we're a fiscally challenged area, a restrained area, they get some federal dollars assistance to help pay off their school loans. So they get them in here. They got a good recruitment policy, but they get those loans paid down or paid off within 5 years. In the meantime, Mr. or Mrs. Wright have met the other Mr. or Mrs. Wright and decided to have a little right. And so now that teacher needs family coverage. For a teacher in Putnam County to have family health insurance coverage, it costs them $1,500 per month for their premium. This is for a high deductible. This isn't just a $500 annual challenge. So this puts a teacher, which is their highest paid employees, this isn't even counting cafeteria staff or school bus drivers, just a teacher, where once they pay that health insurance, they're now below the federal poverty level on their income. And so what's happening is they're beginning to lose teachers, because as soon as they have families, they've got to look at going to other counties to move out. So they've got continual turnover, and this is the scenario. So where can we find some funding to help out? And this is where I'm asking for a personal sacrifice from the 7 of you and the 22,700 other people. But it's already been an actuary study done that if you would simply take what the state employees get, which is still a phenomenal rate, that would save the state $43.4 million annually. So it doesn't raise taxes, it just would be reappropriated to hopefully go to small counties that meet your fiscally restrained area.
I didn't quite follow that last part.
So if the 22,700 employees include the highest paid state workers that are eligible for the insurance rate that you as legislators and your aides get, which is much better than what the state agencies get. If you would simply take what the state agency people get of $50 a month for single or $180 a month for family rate compared to what you're paying now. So you'd have to pay a little bit more. This is a personal thing that you would have to be willing to do. But if doing that, the actuary study's already been done. That would save $43.4 million a year to the state. And if that could be put into some kind of a health insurance supplement trust fund for the small counties that meet the fiscally restrained thing to help out, it'd be a matching grant to the agency. So, for example, Putnam County School Districts contribute $450 a month to their employees. So to the level that those funds could be spread up to that amount, not to exceed that amount, and that the employees would have to be on a wellness program, and this could be like a 10-year thing, I'm not talking for long term, just to help these agencies get to where they can keep people that are younger, which is what health insurance or any insurance needs. You need that younger population to help offset the older ones that are being retained to help bring your risk management levels down and your costs down. And that way you can get better negotiated health insurance contracts. So by doing that, hopefully we can break this cycle and they can end up having it. And what that's going to mean is more money in the pocket of the employees, which would be an economic boost for this county. Because the largest employer in this county, if you look collectively between the sheriff's department, county agencies and school board, that's our largest employers, all those employees put together. And so if you were to help those that have the insurance to be able to have a little bit more money in their pocket, either for a health savings account or a spend back, that's going to help our economy. And that's a win-win. I hate the first time I meet you to ask for a personal sacrifice, but that's really what I'm asking, just to know what you're paying now and know a teacher's paying $1,500 a month. That's unacceptable, and we need to do something better than what we're doing now. Thank you.
Yeah, just, and the reason I wanted to clarify, because you're not asking for Representative Payne and myself, you're asking.
I'm asking for the legislator.
To do it for all these employees, not just us to do it individually, but you're asking.
That's correct. I'm asking you to.
The 22,000 employees that you mentioned, what are those salaries? What is that low end?
I don't know. Apparently there's been an actuary study, because I was reading this, what Governor Scott already apparently looked into this. This was something he was wanting to do. And so he had an actuary study done based on the research I was able to find, and it said between legislators and your aides and the amount of state workers it came to a number of 22,700 total that were getting this rate that y'all get at your level.
Yeah, and we could certainly, I'd love to look into it later. I mean, I can tell you that, of course, we're the lowest paid state
Right.
employees that you have, and I believe our staff has to be lower. I know they're certainly lower paid than a lot of other professions, including teachers. So I'm not sure where that where that dollar amount, we can certainly look at that.
But all we're simply asking is that they just get what the state agency people get that are still low paid. I used to be with the State Park Service Park Ranger. I'm going to tell you, that's pretty low. And, you know, we still got the insurance rate of either $50 for a single or $180 for family. That in this day and time is an exceptional rate. I can promise you, they would love to have anything close to that. They have no, I mean, so we've got to find something better than this, because it's killing them.
Yeah, and you could look into that number, the employee number of the state, and the rates of pay that we're talking about. Because we're not talking, I know you said keep costs down, we're not talking about keeping costs down, we're talking about just shifting burden of cost, which I understand. But where's that low level, what's the threshold that we would talk about of those 22,000 employees? You know, you're talking about people making $30,000 a year, and so. You just shift the burden to make the pain a little more equitable, if you want to put it that way.
Okay, I'm just saying, I'm betting that there's not anybody, even a legislative aide at the lowest level, that's going to be lower than what you've already got state agency workers at that are paying the $50 or the $100. So I'm just saying, make them on it, same as what state agency people get.
Yeah, well, we'll look into it. I
And
appreciate
so
you bringing
that
up.
provides a trust fund possibility.
Sure, we've talked about this once before, a year or two ago. I would like to see more of the actuarial numbers to see what we can do. We can, if we can get a lump sum of folks in there to buy that cost down, we're better off. I think that was our discussion once before.
Well, and the other thing is, I was kind of coming in from it where we were trying to get it where maybe they could be combined in with the state employees as far as just a negotiated amount, but because of the risk level that they're considered at, nobody wants to include them in the cost analysis. So until we break that cycle, so we got to come up with a funding source. So, you know, if we can get something better, but something's got to change from what it is now.
Good, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Next, from Crescent City Women's Club, Barbara Hersey and Paula Nichols.
Thank you very much for being here today. We appreciate y'all coming down. As you know, the Crescent City Women's Club was here last year, and we told you about a special program that we have near and dear to our hearts, which is Senior Lunch. We do a free senior lunch every Tuesday from 11 until 1 at our clubhouse. We have been doing it now for 1 year next week. We serve anywhere from 60 to 120 per week, depending on whether or not the snowbirds are here. And we're getting ready for the snowbirds to come back, I think, if they still think Florida's here after the hurricane. When I was listening to some of the previous speakers, they were talking about 10 million and 20 million and 12 million. We certainly are not asking for anything like that. Anything that you would be willing to allot to us would be greatly appreciated. We serve more now in one day than the Meals on Wheels does for Putnam County. I believe the last time I checked on that, there were 53 meals for the whole of Putnam County at 4 or 5 different locations, none of which is Crescent City. We have recently remodeled our clubhouse because it was in need of some various disability accommodations that were lacking. We sort of made do with it, but we knew that we had to eventually get something going on that. So we have a ramp now, and we are in the process of buying new tables. The ones that we have are about 20 some odd years old, and the little screws that sink down into, it makes the table wobble. So we need some sturdier tables so that the food doesn't roll off. The age of the volunteers that remodeled the clubhouse was from 60 to 85. They were all women's club members, except for the people that did the crown molding. We did have to pay for that. But it's amazing what women can do when they put their mind to it. That is basically what I have to say to you today, is that we thank you for being here. We love Crescent City. We love Putnam County. We would appreciate any help that you could give us. And I'm going to turn it over to Paula now.
Thank you both for being here and thinking of that little dot, Crescent City, Florida, in Putnam County. As of October the 4th, when we first started our luncheons, the very first day we had 44 people, a donation of $13.50. So within 6 months, we totaled $679.54 in donations. We served 661 people, that's not counting takeouts. Then from January 17th through, and that's just 6 months, through June the 5th to 17th, we served 949 people, which is a total of 1,684 grand total within that term. And we had to stop in June because that's when we did our renovations to and then Irma came in, so that kind of put us at a damper. And I would really like to get some information on this farm share thing, because during the hurricane, we weren't aware of any of this. So out of our own monies, first of all, let me go back. Our air conditioner went out, so that cost us $1,500, which we had a lightning struck it. So that had to put a damper on some of our money. And all these meals are not paid by any local organization or anything. It's our money that we put in, the ladies from the Women's Club. And we have donations. If any of you want to sponsor a dinner, it's $50. We do the rest, and these are all homemade meals. Homemade cakes, potato salads, you name it. A matter of fact, she just took me away from She just took me away from fixing tomorrow's meal, which is spaghetti and what have you. But we would really appreciate, you know, if somebody would just think of the necessity that there is for a community center in Crescent City. We have gone to several of the Crescent City members, and I know the mayor and the rest of the people aren't here, but I'm be stepping on toes, but I have put out an invitation for them to come have lunch with us. Several of you have come in and, you know, had lunch with us to see what it is. It's not taking anything away from anybody, just to show the necessity for these elderly people and funding for a lot of other things that we do for them. We gather jackets for wintertime, blankets, anything that we can think of, and that's just through us, and it's just, I think we have, 60-something members now? And that's all through just the women's donations. And we're not for hire with the renovations. So we thank you very much and have a blessed day.
Thank you, ladies, for your service. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Next on the list, Alan Mosley from Northeast Florida Regional Transportation Committee.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here. I just wanted to introduce the Northeast Florida Regional Transportation Commission. It was formed about 5 years ago at the behest of Senator Gibson and the late Senator King. It's a 6-county region that includes Putnam, Baker, Clay, St. John's, Duval, and Nassau. We looked at all modes of transportation, but then we found ourselves really focusing on the coordination of regional transit as a critical need for the region. The region right now stands at about 1.5 million population, approaching 1.5 million, and looks to grow to nearly 2 million in the next 15 years. And so what we really want to focus on is make sure transit is considered as we grow, and it is a really viable and valuable mode of transportation in this region. As a region, we're trying to kind of remove the boundaries and really begin to think as a region from a transportation perspective. Transportation is kind of the foundation for any successful economic development activity. In the rural counties, you find well, it's true throughout, but transportation transportation disadvantage is a key issue, and we really want to add our voice to supporting that. Again, we're a 6-county region, and a lot of successes in that space, but we really want to add our support to supporting any funding for transit as we go forward. We can't continue. We kind of would like to see a less vehicle-centric peak hour travel, and we see it as being safer. I like to say that gives us an opportunity, it connects us to one another and to opportunity and ultimately to the world. So with that, I just like to say we support transportation significantly. We have a great relationship with the Florida DOT and the good work they're doing. The TPO in this region is also, Transportation Planning Organization in this region is also very well coordinated. One thing that we really think we can do is bring the public and private sector together on this issue of transit and connecting people to economic jobs and opportunity. So with that, I'll close. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz Peak from Ride Solutions. Get a couple of transportation groups back to back here.
We planned it that way. Thank you for
Good.
supporting that plan.
Absolutely.
Oh, and also thank you for supporting transportation disadvantage and transit, not only here in Putnam County, but across the entire state. Without this funding, your constituents, the most vulnerable constituents, will not be able to get to medical appointments. They will not be able to go to the grocery stores. With the current funding level and the funding that you helped support increased in last year, Ride Solution here in Putnam County was able to provide 130,000 trips for your constituents to go to medical appointments and to go to the grocery store and get their prescriptions. But that funding, the way it's, the level that it is right now, only allows us to provide medically necessary trips and 2 non-medical trips a month for your constituents. There's some very innovative ways of providing transportation and working with the Regional Transportation Commission and our partners. We have been able to provide trips to those people who aren't poor enough or aren't disabled enough to qualify for that transportation disadvantage funding. But more funding is necessary for us to be able to deliver more trips so that people can go to work. Because over 33% of the people that live in Putnam County don't work in Putnam County. They can't find jobs in Putnam County or jobs that pay them enough for them to sustain their lifestyle. So they're traveling to Gainesville and to Duval County and to St. Augustine daily, either on our services or by carpooling or getting that clunker out of the garage or whatever resources they have to go to work. But if we're going to stop this cycle of poverty that is here, we need to provide more trips. And your funding and your support will help us do that. And thank you for what you've done so far, and we appreciate your assistance in the future on that.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Last speaker card I have is from Tim Hotelli. Tim?
Afternoon. I'm not going to ask you for money. I'm going to ask you for legislation. Give you a little show and tell if you take a moment.
If you just go into the mic, we
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
it. Yes, sir. That way we can hear you for the record. Okay.
There's some photographs of Buzzard Island, which is an aviary, a rookery, a place where little white birds of Florida and anhingas and whatever like to hang out because it's safe for them to hang out. They're a specialized ecological chunk. Buzzard Island belongs to the state of Florida, but it's not acknowledged by the state of Florida. It lives in a filing cabinet with the Department of Environmental Protection, who refuses to allocate it to any agency. I've had lots of talks with scientists that you all pay salary for, who would love to study these birds. There's some really neat guys, but because they're not endangered and they're not threatened, they can't find any funding to do any studies to fully identify the value of the ibis and the egret and the other kind of things. So that they're in Never Never Land until we lose these resources that are their homes. Those pictures that I provided you are 2014, 15, 16. That island's being beaten all to heck. I have no idea if it's because water rise, a few hurricanes didn't hurt. The Coast Guard's Navy went on down and did a good job of washing it out. Corps of Engineers sprays the island with stuff that kills what helps hold it together. And there's nobody in the state of Florida that pays any attention to the fact that it belongs to the state of Florida, and there should be pride and ownership. And I'm asking you, well, in addition, this is just one little island because I see it every day. There are others around the state, but nobody in the state of Florida knows where these kind of islands are, which are critical. The islands are selected by these animals because they're a certain distance from the mainland, that provides them protection so raccoons and possums and snakes and all that don't come out there and eat their young. They do share the islands with alligators, as the blue herons are threatened. So there's one really neat guy that got to do some studies. And the alligators are a symbiotic relationship to protect them. But again, these islands have to be a certain distance from the mainland. We don't make islands anymore. And as that research says, the researcher told me it'd be an awful lot cheaper to fix what we have now than build new ones when they become threatened. I have 2 requests, no money, no anything, and it's in the back of that piece of paper. Call the director of the Department Miss Cheryl, anyhow. Oh, I messed up and forgot some stuff. The Environmental Protection folk, Bureau of Land Administration, Bureau Chief Cheryl, and ask her why she hasn't in 2 years assessed this piece of property and give it to where some of the many people would be kind enough to do something for the island, develop a plan, and further ask her or whoever to find out how many more of these islands are, with the thought of releasing just a little bit of money to the people that you already pay to study the biology of these very special islands, because with all of the action plans that I've read, with sea rising and all of that kind of good stuff, there's none of them at all that identify protecting these assets, and you're just going to have a whole bunch more threatened and endangered and have to dig out more money. And I'm sorry I went afield because I quoted the state constitution, I quoted the Department of Environmental Protection, I'm sorry, the Public Lands Administration things, and all of the, it's their mission. It's in the Constitution. Protect your lands. Our job, you've got a whole outfit that's supposed to be protecting habitat and species, and they can't do it because it hasn't been assigned. That's all. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wanted to fill out a speaker card that we didn't see? Yes, sir? You'll fill out a speaker's card?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not, and I apologize for that. I was busy at the courthouse and got here late. And I'm Kenny Downs, and I'm here to represent several hundred parents that have their children out playing at the baseball and softball fields here in Palatka. And they've got 2 small restrooms there, and there's several hundred people a week that utilize those fields. And I come to you today and ask for your help. They're county fields. They're not privately owned. They're county fields, and we need some help with that. This summer, they're planning on having softball tournaments and baseball tournaments. We're going to have people coming in from several different areas around, which is going to be good for our economy, filling up the hotels, the restaurants, the service stations, and hopefully other things. But I'd certainly appreciate your help, as I'm here to represent several hundred of them today that truly need some assistance there. Thank you very much.
This is at Francis Park, is that correct?
That's exactly right.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments? Senator, you want to close, make your comments?
Well, just first, thanks for everybody coming and being patient and waiting. And, legislatively, we do this every year in every county that's in the state of Florida. It's a formal process. You stand up there. There's not a lot of interaction that we have time for. But, again, we have an office here. I'll speak for myself and Representative Payne. We want to meet you individually or in small groups, however you want to do that. If you'll call us up, that'll give us more time to really delve into the individual items that you have. They're all important. We appreciate you coming here and sharing them, but we do want to have some better quality time. And we're willing to do that and meet with you if you're willing to reach out to us and set those meetings up. So, thank you.
Great, thank you, Senator. And I just want to say, same. Make sure you reach out to our offices, talk to us, your important issues. We have appropriations requests that will be coming up. Make sure that we hear from you on those. But also I want to say to the Putnam Countyans and the folks that I've known all my life here, thank you for the leadership and the gargantuan effort you put forth after Hurricane Irma. I think we're probably all at the point of Irma fatigue, but I saw a lot of leadership out doing what they should have been doing during this event and taking care of the most needy that we have in our community. It's certainly our honor to do that, and I worked hand in hand with many of you, and so thank you for that. We're committed to improving the quality of life here, and I have a great partner in Senator Perry. I also have great partners in Northeast Florida that we worked with very well, and I can tell you if it weren't for Senator Perry last year, some of the appropriations requests that we had in would not have made it. So I was very proud to have him as a partner. We have one more order of business, and since I am chair this year, I will make a motion that for the 2018 year that you are chair of the Putnam Delegation, and I'll be the vice chair. Hearing no objections, so moved. And we're adjourned. Thank you.